You might already know today's guest. Lori Harder is a best-selling author, top-ranked podcast host, speaker, and the founder of Glōci. What you might not know is that I've had the chance to work with Lori a couple of times over the past year, and it's been really fun getting to collaborate with someone whose work I've followed for a long time. In this episode, Lori and I talk about what it actually looks like to lead personal brand and build and grow multiple businesses that might seem disconnected. We talk also about how she looks at hiring in her business, how to build trust, what it can take to be successful working together with a visionary founder like Lori. And we also talk through the launch strategy that we built together for her new mastermind. We cover the difference between a true CMO partner, and we talk about lessons she's learned from both the great hires and not so great hires she's made along the way. So, if you're a marketer or a fractional CMO who wants to work with a visionary founder like Lori, this episode gives you a sneak peek behind the scenes. Welcome to CMO School. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. And we just got to see each other in person in Canada. I got to come to your part of the world and it was so much fun. And you guys, if you did not see her in this pink dress, it's worth going back for. That's all I'm saying.
You're the best. I feel like that picture of us needs to be on my feed, actually.
I'm not even joking. This is one of your best photos I've ever seen of you. You should cut me out of it and blow it up.
No, I love you in it. It's great. Okay, it's going on the feed.
Hey, great.
I love it. Okay, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast and also so amazing after just seeing you and spending time with you in person. I want to jump right in and chat with you about your kind of reinvention. I think everyone listening to this will know who you are. You have reinvented yourself so many times from fitness, podcasting, Glōci, masterminds. You've done so many different things and everything you've done has been successful. For the most part. I know you talked about your story with Glōci at our conference, but I really want to know what the through line is or what has stayed the same for you through all of those things because they're so different. And I think often people will come from this perspective of how do I shift? How can I evolve? And particularly, I think marketers who maybe have been in one lane and they're wanting to go do something else, or people who haven't had a marketing background want to step into it. I'd love for you to speak to that. How did you evolve and have it still work with your audience and with who you are?
Let me speak from now, looking back. So if I could find a through line of everything, it would be that all of them, I could use the skill sets that I was good at. And that is really making people feel immediately comfortable and connecting with them. And also connecting people. So whether it was fitness or whether it was I owned a gym and I did group workouts, I really understood how to connect with people vulnerably because I believe without a vulnerable connection, we can't create a change in any industry. I don't care if you're a makeup artist. I don't care if you're a CMO. If you don't know what's going on in the business or with them personally or truly in their soul, we can't make any change at all. Everything I've done, I've been able to use my skill set of what I just said. So being able to connect really vulnerably with people. And then the other one is that they all were tied to each other in some way. And even if the outside people couldn't see it, I got really good at learning how to create a story where each business to business was connected to each other or fed each other. Meaning I started in the fitness industry and then I got into network marketing, which was shakes and supplements. And to me, I was like, I'm in the fitness industry and they need to eat. But it could have gone the other way if I was a CMO, but I was a very fit CMO. And every single time someone came on, they said, oh my God, Jess, your arms are insane. I learned how to go, oh, it's because of what I eat. And I made my life a lot easier. I'm a part of this network marketing company and I drink 2 shakes a day and I have whatever I want at night. And I have learned how to tie a story, create story around anything to make it so that it is a natural fit to be able to pivot into it. I did not realize that was a superpower, but I do believe that can be taught through just storytelling and digging it.
Yeah, I really love that. And I also think you didn't really say it, but what you've been doing is sharing your full self. Try to walk into your authenticity piece of that, all of the things that make you you are what you're sharing. And yeah, maybe you're a CMO, maybe you're in the fitness industry, maybe you're an accountant, but we're all multifaceted. And when we're sharing those things, and it kind of our whole life. Like I'm a mom. Sometimes I'll share things and people are like, how are you doing this as a mom? And just sharing those things that other people can connect to and relate. I can understand the weaving in of these things that on the outside might look and feel really different, but it's all integrated because that's who you are.
Yeah, the connection is who you are, the human part of it. And I think that's the part that people get really stuck on is they forget a human is behind this running everything. And that's actually going to be, I think, the most powerful story.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I want to dig into marketing a little bit with you and a little different than what you typically talk about. I know you do podcasts all the time. So I wanted to talk to you about when you hire marketing support and what your marketing teams look like now, what they've looked like in the past, just lessons learned, lots of questions around that. Because I think people often have questions for me around how did you start working with Lori and what is it like working with clients as a fractional CMO or even just marketing in general. And I think that a lot of people don't really get to see behind the scenes. So I'd love to pull back the curtain and share a little bit there.
Traditional marketing of what a lot of my counterparts, a lot of my friends in this industry, that's actually been a huge weakness for Chris and I. And so I'm excited to share, even if something is not a strength or maybe you've avoided it, you can still be successful. But then it's also important once you get to certain places, I think, to go and find some people who can help you.
Yeah, there's some interesting things I really want to dig into there.
Awesome.
Outside looking in, you have Glōci, Chris has companies, you've got your podcast, you've got your masterminds. You guys have a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of our listeners would wonder, what does your marketing setup look like today? Who's on your team? How do you keep it all running? What does that really look like behind the scenes?
Honestly, right now, we're still getting it together. We're doing a lot of fractional, which we worked with you, which was great. You helped us get a really great plan for our recent program that we launched, Mentor Collective Mastermind. We're working with another woman, Melissa, who's really helping us more with planning of those launches, the copy, different things like that. But before that, it truly was, we come from the mentality of wanting to have a small team. We had a big team for a very brief moment in history, and we learned that it wasn't for us. So we had in-house teams. I think we had 8 employees. And I know that sounds very small to some people, but to us, it felt really big because Chris and I are definitely creatives. Yes, we somewhat enjoy leading, but I enjoy leading a very small team. When it starts to feel big to me, I start to not really have fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we're doing. Our business truly is our life. It's so integrated in our lives. Chris and I work together. So we've made a pact that we always want to assess if we are growing the team at an expense of something else. Even though, yes, it might make more money, are we growing it at the expense of our peace or of having a business that we are still loving, or meaning having a business that we're still loving it, but trading it for something else because we're just so infiltrated by our incredible network that we think we need to be a certain way. So I think we've always gone back to that and gone, okay, what does this actually look like? Of course, we want to grow, but at what expense? So Chris and I have loved staying smaller. So it really has been my brother-in-law, Nick Harder, who's been doing so much stuff. He's really learned everything along the way with us from the beginning. We started off with a monthly fitness membership program. It started at $89 a month. We would run free challenges. They started with 14-day challenges. It was essentially a 2-week challenge where you're going to work out with me. I send you a meal guide. You're going to work out for free. We try to get a bunch of people online for it. We did learn how to run Facebook ads. This is back when it was the Wild West, and he learned how to do it pretty well. And we were getting like 30,000 people on those challenges. It was insane. And that was back when my girlfriend, who did it really well, she was getting 1 million people on hers. So of course I was comparing myself, thinking that I sucked. Looking back, I would die to have 30,000 people on it. I would literally lose my mind to have 30,000 people on a challenge. Yeah. Wild. That's where it all started. And we realized pretty quickly that we were a pretty good, well-oiled, small machine. I think everyone was working super hard, but I think we got in a rut, if I can look backwards and say, where even though we were doing amazing, we really were our own Achilles heel because we didn't want to expand people. If there would have been options of fractional CMOs back then or fractional people, we would have grown at a much bigger and faster rate. It wasn't talked about back then. It wasn't even really a thing. And so we just don't want a big internal team. And that's what most of our journey has looked like.
Yeah. I love that though, because I think that a lot of people would see your brand and even the size of your followers and what you guys do and just assume that you must have this big team
Mm.
and you don't, and you're still doing an amazing job. I love that you have consciously made that decision and chosen the lifestyle that you want and made the business feel good because I think a lot of people, especially in the Instagram world, it's so easy to get lost in the messages of growth and scale and not really think about what will my days look like if I build my team like that. And do I like managing people? What is that going to look and feel like? And
That's the key. The question we asked, Jess, is what will my day-to-day life look like?
yes, because it can be a lot of work managing a big team and it's not always needed. Amy Porterfield's podcast was talking about downsizing her team and the speed at which they could move or not move on things. At a certain point, things were taking so long and it was like, okay, here's this great idea. And it's like 6 months before they get it out just because of the structures and team dynamic that had been built.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of pendulum swing of what is that right size? What do you really need on a team? And to your point, you're right. There was not fractional roles when you were doing your fitness membership. And even when I started my business 4.5 years ago, there were almost no other fractional CMOs. I was transitioning out of corporate, and my roles in corporate were marketing leadership roles. And also, some of them had been hybrid leadership and execution. So I was stepping into this space and saying, my friends and family, I know I want to be a leader in marketing. I don't really want to work full time in house. I want different clients. I want different dynamics of working with different people and businesses. I know that I don't want to execute. That's the part that drains me. I'm a visionary. I love putting together the key messaging, the strategy, really macro, looking across someone's business and seeing what opportunities are there. But when it comes to the detailed plan, I would rather leave that to somebody else. And stepping into this, I was trying to connect with other fractional CMOs and say, how do you do this? What does the rule look like? What are your packages? How do you work with clients? And there was almost no one and nothing out there for me to learn. There was a few people I connected with and learned a few things, but ultimately it was a lot of trial and error and taking the first year and a half or so of testing and iterating and trying to see what worked with clients and really just getting it to a place where I had failed and gotten back up and then found a rhythm and found processes that work really well. But it's been awesome because I've now been able to come into quote unquote big teams, like you mentioned, 8 to 10, and then also smaller teams like you and work alongside Nick in your business or whatever contractors we're pulling in and flow how I work with clients based on the team and adjust the strategy, or I like to say right size what we're doing for the team and the company. Because a big thing for me is I never want to put something together like a strategy or a launch plan that is wildly out of scope for the size of team a client has. We really want to make sure we're living within the vision of your business.
I think it's really easy to probably for you as well want to help people get to a lot more, but you also have to think, what are the goals? Probably have to go in asking that.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important. I'm talking about that from like day one of sales conversations with clients and really trying to understand what are your goals? What's the team that's available? What are we trying to do here? That all plays into the kinds of strategies we would put together.
I think people's fear around getting fractional CMOs, how much more team will I have to hire? And that's a very real thought. What does this look like? What am I bringing on? So I think a lot of people, if you're resistant, I think it's worth even just looking at because you may or may not have to hire more people.
Yeah, exactly. We're always coming in and assessing the skill sets that are there and then the gaps and budget and the vision of the founder. Are you trying to grow to 10 million, 15 million, or are you trying to keep it small? What's the vision?
Yeah,
And making sure that we're aligning team with that too.
totally.
So we've worked together now a couple of times. What made you want to work with me? And was it something about how I positioned myself, the experience of connecting? I know that you and I chatted way back, and then Chris and I have talked. I'm curious, what made you guys decide to say yes?
I'm a referral person and I knew who you worked with. That was it.
Love it.
I literally was like, okay, I think I will try that because I need help. And I think it was the first time I'd heard of a fractional CMO. And the idea of that was really interesting to me because Like I said, we like to keep our team a certain size, but also we don't feel like we need a CMO all the time. It's very important at certain points, and then we go a long time without needing it.
Yeah.
So it's the overarching picture of the plan. So that's what I was excited about.
Yeah. And on that note of timing, what about the timing of us working together? You've launched other offers before. What about this offer or the timing of it made it feel like, okay, now is the time we need a CMO level partner right now?
I think for this particular project, we knew how we had worked before, which was not necessarily having a super solid plan. It was like, okay, now we're just going to go on social and we're going to be talking about it for 2 weeks. Chris and I are very natural. We'll talk about it on our podcast, we'll talk about it on social, but it won't have a big plan behind it. We'll know when we should be talking about it. But in all honesty, we haven't put such a solid plan behind it where we're like, on this day, we're doing this, on this day, we're doing that. The reason why for this one is I wanted to feel like I was leaving nothing on the table. And so I wanted to work with someone who had worked with other people, a lot of other people. And I think that was the most valuable thing for me with you is you had worked with a lot of other people in the industry. The thing that I feel we got to benefit the most from was the experiences and knowing what the other people were doing, really learning what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Because I only get to see the inside of my business. Of course, I get to talk to some girlfriends in the industry who are doing amazing, but you don't actually sit down necessarily and really get in the nitty gritty and plan with them and say what worked, what didn't. I wanted to know like what 5 to 10 businesses who were doing really well were doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the most beneficial thing. That's a time saver is okay. It's so powerful to know you've worked in this business and done these things to see what worked and what didn't.
I love that that was one of your favorite things because it's my favorite thing about this role. And I talk about that a lot with my team, and we will debrief because we have different clients. And it's cool to see what's working and also to know what's not working. Last year, 2024, there were so many shifts in the market. And I remember when things started shifting, feeling like, oh no, am I doing something wrong with my client over here? But once I started talking to other marketers, other fractional CMOs, and seeing, no, this is actually just happening across the board. This is a macro trend in buying behavior and how things are shifting in this space.
Yep.
It's really cool to be able to see that both on what's working and what's not working. And then being able to, with our clients, because we're behind the scenes of many businesses, we can bring over stuff across all of our clients and say, hey, this is working really well. Let's do this here. Often we'll have people like you guys, you and Chris had launched before and you had lots of cool things, lots of things that had worked and okay, let's do that. But also someone with fresh eyes can come in and really say, okay, here's what I would keep and here's what I would do differently. And just give you a different perspective because it can be hard, even as a marketer, to market myself. You always just need that fresh perspective, someone who's not day in, day out in your business.
Definitely. That was super helpful.
Okay, switching gears a little bit. When you're working with marketing hire in general, what for you helps to build trust quickly? And also, is there anything that can break it for you really quickly?
It's such a dance with any hire to get really clear expectations because I think the problem with hires is that we're speaking different languages, all of us. I think it's being so transparent of maybe even walking through everything. It's helpful to walk through everything together for deliverables, expectations, what is going to happen and what's not. Because I think with a breakdown with most all teams, we work with so many entrepreneurs is they think they know what they're getting. And then once they're in it, they're like, I didn't know this. And how are we not knowing? So I think the important thing for trust is to actually take longer than you want. This falls on entrepreneurs a lot where we are in such a rush for everything and there's so little time for everything that maybe we're not fully getting the actual picture of what type of work is being promised. And I know when I'm hiring for Glōci, that's been the hardest part is finding these marketing teams who you're like, wait, was this in the scope or out of the scope? Because this is a really big thing that I just realized is not in the scope and we're already 2 months in. I think trust is going to be created through more due diligence in the beginning, which is every entrepreneur's nightmare to hear. But the ones who do really well are super diligent. I don't believe that anyone's trying to pull one over on you. I think it's two different expectations meeting and
Yeah.
needing to really do the due diligence to figure out what are you exactly getting? And I think that helps create trust, because then you can just hold each other accountable instead of losing trust and not knowing what to expect.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I was actually just coaching another fractional CMO on this the other day because she was in an engagement with a client where what their expectations were wasn't
Mm.
what package was. And we talked through all the interactions from their sales process through to onboarding, and definitely spotted some gaps of where that could have been more clear. But I've come across that too, where I think I'm being clear. I have so many things I do and say along the sales process that I think is clear, but still sometimes there can be mismet expectations. And it's so hard because the client thinks one thing, you're delivering something else. I have had to learn that lesson a few times as well, and making sure that myself, my team, we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we've got the right client. They're actually qualified to work with us, meaning they've got the right team set up and what they're wanting and needing, what success looks like to them is aligned with what we're promising.
I think for people listening who are contractors, anyone working with anyone, and also the entrepreneurs on the other side, it's what we do and what we don't do. You know what I mean? Like almost breaking it down like that. Because the one thing that has just blown my mind in the last 2 years, especially with Glōci, you are legitimately, and I know I said this, but you're speaking two different languages. I can tell you from a trust standpoint, it would feel so much better to be so clear on what you don't do and be so clear on what you do and just stand in that clarity. I love this question. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because, Jess, I've gone through 4 teams. It's been a really painful process for me the last 3 or 4 years between the two different companies. And it's because of the two different languages. You just don't know what's included in, because we're not in that end that you're in. We're not in that back end of what you're doing. So we don't know what that all entails.
Yeah, you can be more right. And I think even when someone does know and understand marketing and you think you're speaking the same language, there can often be miscommunication. One of my things that drives me so nuts about the fractional CMO space, and it's just grown so much over the last few years, is that I talk to marketers and fractional CMOs all the time. And a lot of the ones I talk to are not doing fractional CMO work. They're actually stepping in as a part-time kind of marketing integrator, marketing manager. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that them calling themselves a fractional CMO and doing one scope of work, that's actually not a CMO, is a chief marketing officer. So it's a high level executive role, strategic. You're leading vision and you're leading a team. So when I hear of someone who's calling themselves that and then they're writing emails and writing and publishing social, it's very needed. Don't get me wrong. There are people who need that skill set fractionally in their business, but I think it just can confuse the messaging and it confuses the industry a little bit. And people, I'll often have leads come in and I'll talk to them on sales calls or even sometimes email back and forth to make sure it makes sense to talk with them. But they'll say, I want social content done and I need this and that. And I'm like, okay, that's totally not what we do. So I'm glad we're getting that out right now, because there's just sometimes some miscommunication and people stepping into the role or calling themselves that and not doing it, which can just confuse everybody.
Yeah, I think with any hires, we're all stepping into something that's most likely fairly new, whether your business is pivoting or whether you just started a business or whether you're hiring for something because you probably don't know the answer. I think it's just us taking more time to ask the stupid questions over and over again so that we can feel that level of trust. Otherwise, you're going to go through my experience.
Absolutely. And that's so painful. I feel like a lot of the clients we work with have a similar story where they're like, okay, we worked with this person, and like just talking to someone yesterday, she's 3 months in with my last marketing fractional CMO. All we had was updated messaging guidelines. I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. And I think that when you're being really high level and vague, people just don't really know what they're buying. And then that leads to them filling in the blanks themselves. And I talk to my team about this a lot, is if we can be really clear, and as a CMO, if we can be driving and coming in and saying, okay, Lori, this is how it's going to work. This is what you can expect. This is when you're going to hear from me. Laying out all of that, it builds trust, and the client can feel like, okay, they've got this. They're driving and I'm really clear on what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. But if that doesn't happen, then again, they'll fill in the blanks, or sometimes the client will take the reins and be like, okay, I don't know. Am I supposed to leave? I kicked this thing off. I've got this over here. And Then as a CMO, you're like, what's going on? It's getting chaotic. It's all about how to show up in this role. How can you step into leadership and set expectations for the whole team? When you're working with someone on your team that is in a leadership role, whether they're a marketer or there's someone else, when do you want pushback and when do you just want someone to run with your ideas? Because when we're stepping into a leadership position like a CMO role, it does sometimes require us to push back a little bit on a CEO or maybe challenge their ideas, and it can be uncomfortable.
I was just talking about this with Chris. I really love and appreciate pushback. I didn't say like it. I don't like it. I'm a creative, so I never like it, if I'm being honest. Most people who started a business, they don't love it. They just don't tell you that. Nobody loves coming in with an idea that feels soulful and from your gut and really important to carry through. Nobody loves feedback on that, but we appreciate feedback on it. I think anyone who's been on this journey for a while knows that it's very important to hear about all the different opinions because it might be amazing to you, but it may not be amazing to the public. So why put all that energy out if you're not willing to get feedback beforehand? When is it appropriate to push? I think it's important if you feel strongly about it, obviously. I think feedback is wonderful, especially that's what we're hiring people for. It's the delivery. I was
Yeah.
telling Chris this, I never mind feedback, but I have to train them how to deliver it to me, or I'll feel this is full honesty from a creator, from a visionary creative person who is not linear. It'll shut me down. And then I can't even hear the feedback if the delivery is not good. I actually get really defensive in my mind and I don't want to hear how they're saying it because I don't like the delivery. So
Right.
if I've decided I don't like the delivery, it takes me a minute to hear it. I'll hear it that night when I go home. So I think that the important thing is to know who you're working with, know if they love direct feedback. How do you like your feedback given to you? Because some people love direct feedback. You know what I mean? It just really depends. I love direct feedback, but if they're shutting it down and not saying, let's just talk about what could potentially go wrong, that's amazing delivery for me. Not, no, I don't think
Yes.
that's going to work. I need people to give it a chance,
Yeah.
but then just say, what sort of things do you see not working? So I actually think it's really appropriate whenever you have it, unless you're just filling space to try to look valuable.
Well, yeah.
Not being rude to anyone with this, but when we're new at things, I have done this too. It's not actually valuable to fill space if it's not being filled in a valuable way. So if it's just a random opinion that's really not going to count in the end and you know they're already doing something and for sure doing it, you don't need a random opinion. I think that those times are not appropriate. And learning that is just getting in the rooms and sometimes doing it the wrong way.
Yeah, I agree. You need to make a mistake to figure
For
out, okay,
sure.
that wasn't right. This is how I'll do it next time. But yeah, I love that. I think that it's definitely a skill in learning someone's working style and how they like to communicate. And then I think also being able to read where this idea is coming from. Are they feeling really passionate about it, or was it just off the cuff and they're not super attached to it? And approaching your feedback from that perspective and having empathy for their idea. The way I like to see it is almost always the CEO is very visionary, very creative. And I like to say my best client relationships are not like this. I'm stacking my fists working for the CEO. I'm working with them, alongside them, beside them as their partner. And so I really try to communicate that way too and try to say, I might be thinking differently about this. And I completely see your perspective and I love XYZ or whatever. Try to really step into their shoes and see what they're seeing, but then also say, this is where my head is at. And I also like to challenge myself to understand what is important to them about this idea or what are they trying to accomplish with it? Because maybe there's a way to do it that will solve or not have the problems or challenges I'm seeing. And then B, how can I think differently? I might have one opinion or have a myriad of experiences that mean one thing. How can I look at this from a different perspective? Because it could work. But again, not being afraid to have those conversations, but in a really constructive and open way.
Yeah, I feel like I remember when you were sitting at our table when we had first started working with you, you came in for a day. I remember you asking, how do you guys like to be worked with? Or how is this best going to be communicated? You asked a lot of those questions.
Yeah.
And I found that to be super helpful for the whole team. I think it just shed a lot of light for everybody around how we all want to be communicating with each other.
Yeah. I think that's important. I had a mentor tell me at one time. The sentiment was basically, we shouldn't be coming in and talking at people, and you shouldn't be coming in and immediately giving advice or answering something really quickly. And so people will sometimes get frustrated because I'll answer their question with more questions. But I like to really make sure I'm understanding the whole picture and being able to wrap my mind around your vision, your goals. What are you trying to do here? And really have an understanding before I'm coming in and giving clients marketing advice or offer structure advice or pricing or timing or any of that, because there's so many things that come into play when you're looking at strategy and you're looking at planning. And I think that something that is a little bit of like irk with the industry sometimes is that there's these group coaching programs or really light touch services where people are just dropping in for an hour and they don't really know a lot about your business. And they're like, oh, yeah, this is the answer. This is how you should do it. And people are walking away and taking that and running with it, when in reality, there's all these other things in their business that make that answer not make sense.
That's so true.
Yeah. Okay. Switching gears over to marketing in general, I wanted to ask you a couple questions about building a personal brand, just marketing as a whole, because while we have worked together, you and Chris are excellent marketers. You've built your personal brands massively. We've talked about the businesses you've had and the pivots you've made. You guys are geniuses in this space in your own right. I would love to know one thing or a few things right now within marketing, within personal branding that is cringe for you right now or that you wish would stop.
Oh man, it's so hard to hop on trends or try to see what's working. It's constantly switching just on Instagram and Reels and all the things.
Yeah.
So I wish I could just do the same thing I do on podcasts on social media. I'm long form. It has been really hard for me to do short things, but I'm committed. As you can
Yeah.
probably see on my social, I've been committed since social started.
Yep.
So I think I just want everyone to know it's not easy for most people out there. You might look and go, yeah, but they're still putting stuff out, or that seems so creative. That takes so much mental bandwidth just to do what we're doing. And we always feel like we're never doing even an eighth of what we should be doing. And so I think what I wish would stop is the algorithm changes, but I also don't want to plant that because like, they're always going to change. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we have to change with them and we have to be this way. And I think that if business was easy, everyone would be successful. And I think it's our job to keep being cringe every hour of our life because that's the only way you learn.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's getting those reps in. Last week at the conference, when Jen spoke, she showed that video of herself being actually awful on Facebook Lives, like truly. And then she's obviously fantastic. She's such a good speaker now. And that was cool for me to see because I feel like people often will say, oh, I was bad when I started. My first podcast was whatever. And it's not very often that you can go back and see someone's first, let's say, webinar or whatever. But to be able to see that was so cool because she really was bad and she's excellent now. So it was such a testament to, if we stick at something, we will get really good if we're dedicated to it and we have a goal. And I think you're right with social media. The algorithm is so frustrating. It's changing all the time, but complaining about it doesn't really change it. So how can we just keep getting the reps in and trying to be creative and trying to learn and grow as we go and trying to make it fun, trying to make it something we enjoy as part of our business.
Totally. I've watched her speak now and seen that video probably 5 times. And I think I actually love it more every time.
Yeah, it's good. It's
So
just
good.
so,
Seeing the beginnings, seeing those messy beginnings.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. What is something you're seeing in marketing, whether it's social, email, strategies? What are you seeing that you're loving lately or that's really working?
I'm loving that I think people really are still drawn and maybe even more drawn to community. And I'm loving that people are understanding how to co-create with AI better, not just relying on it. I am using AI probably more than most, and it's changing my life. I've really put the work in to train mine so
Yeah.
that it can make my social media stuff a lot easier. For example, a lot of people are using it for captions, and that's great, and you can tweak it from there. I'm actually feeding it very long emotional stories about the video that I'm uploading, and then I say what emotions I want it to condone, the storyline I'm thinking, and then I have the punchline, and I want how people are going to react, who it's going to hit. I'll speak everything into it about the reel I'm picturing in my head. And I'll say, give me multiple examples of what this hook could be and what I could be doing in it. And then also an idea of a caption. And so I'm using it truly to co-create storylines of reels. And the ones that I've used even so far, because I've really just started doing that recently, have done really well. It definitely takes time, but it's still going a lot faster than previous. And also, I just wasn't posting because it felt so exhausting to come up with the whole story on my own.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great hook. Sometimes you'll just get the one idea and you can create from there. So that's what I'm loving within marketing. I'm using it for opt-ins right now, helping me build opt-ins, the landing pages, and they're starting to crush it. I'm so excited. But you really have to put the time in to train your AI to start feeling results like I'm feeling. And I'm excited about what will be possible in the future, as long as you're infusing heart into it, or you can really feel that it's AI.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I agree. You can clearly see on social who is still learning, I will say, versus who's nailed it. And I think that you made some really good points. I use it all day, every day. And when it's trained and when you're prompting it really well, you can get some amazing output. And what I think is really cool about it is this thought partner to you, and it can also get you unstuck, which previously you'd be like, okay, I guess I'm just going to go walk away from my computer, or I don't know, maybe call a friend or something. But I just feel like it's this, you might have a kernel of an idea or even literally nothing, and it can just pull you out of a creative rut and help, which is such a lifesaver.
I love it for that reason too. And I love if you look at it as a co-creator, you just really can start using it that way.
Yeah. Did you hear Callan?
Didn't get to hear it all because I had to go backstage during it because I was right after her. So I missed the second half.
No, the cool thing I learned from her, and you might be doing this already, she was saying that, so I was training my ChatGPT threads and using one thread for a certain thing, but she taught us about projects within ChatGPT. And she mentioned this briefly, but didn't cover it really. Custom GPTs, and you can create them anyways. Then I went on a deep dive, and it's like my next level. So I'm going to send you what I had, and I'll post it on social too. It's like the next level of training your AI.
And please send.
Yes. Because you know all the annoying things? You're like, okay, I've trained you. Stop using 50 emojis in my caption. Ditch the M dashes, things like that. And sometimes it's where you're like, hey, where did all the things go that I just told you?
Yeah.
All of what Callan taught us, and I will also link her in the show notes because she's my new AI best friend. All of what she taught us solves all of that.
I need this. You'll save so much frustration. Okay.
And so cool. I'll share it with you. She's amazing.
Great. Love this.
Well, great. I know most of our listeners probably know you, but for anyone new, where can they find you and connect with you, Lori?
Thank you so much for this. You are able to find me on my podcast, which is Earn Your Happy. And then socials, it's all just at Lori Harder. And then I have obviously my biggest company right now that I'm focusing on the most is Glōci. So getglōci.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was so great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So if you're building a fractional CMO business and you don't want to waste years figuring it out the hard way, Fractional CMO School is open for enrollment, and we'll give you the step-by-step roadmap that I used to build my business to 6 figures in 6 months and then $1 million per year with a small team of 2. There's expert coaching, one-on-one support, and whether you are an aspiring fractional CMO or you're growing, you're trying to figure out how to scale your team or do the role in a way that doesn't lead to burnout, it is a great fit for you. And you can learn more at thecmooffice.com. If you love this episode today, here is what I would love from you. Take 30 seconds to rate and review the show. It helps more marketers and CMOs find this content. Hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're going to implement any of this or you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out in my DMs on Instagram. I would love to support you. And thank you for listening. I will see you next week.